Welcome to the Coming Clean podcast with your host, Peter 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏
whoa, whoa. Real talk, now I'm vibing with a bankroll. Cash, cash.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of Coming Clean Podcast. Today we're going to do a little bit of a different twist. We have an incredible guest, 𝗟𝗓𝗕𝗦𝗘𝗪. Lauren came to the States a few years ago from South Africa. She has been in sobriety now 916 days. Congratulations, Lauren.
Thank you.
And welcome to Coming Clean Podcast. Lauren's going to share her story. She's going to share her story where she's at today, and she's going to share her journey into sobriety, but more importantly, how she has been able to make that transformation into the human being that she is today. Because we want to stay focused on the solution, not on the problem. 𝗟𝗓𝗕𝗦𝗪 is the creativity coach for a new venture that she just recently launched called Business School for Coaches. She's also an international speaker. She's a coach, and she's an author. But more importantly, she's an incredible human being, sober and in recovery. Lauren, welcome and thank you for being with us today.
Thanks so much for having me. This is a great start to my morning.
Lauren, thank you for joining us. But tell us about you. Tell us about your current projects and how you got to be doing what you're doing here in the States. Because you have just recently been here. You know what? You've been here since 2017, I believe, or
yeah.
Yeah.
I arrived in late October 2017, and on the 24th of October, I was meant to fly to New York to see a friend and then head to Bali and go back to South Africa, and I never got on the plane. So it was a moment of grace where I decided to stay, and 2 months later, the 24th of December is my official full day of sobriety. So my life really radically transformed after that geographic. Obviously, at the time, I didn't know it was called pulling a geographic. I just had this compelling desire to stay where I was for once instead of move around. And I was thinking about it this morning. You know, I'm in launch for my Business School for Coaches signature program, which is simply irresistible. How do you create and sell multiple irresistible offers online? And I'm crunching the numbers and I'm going through the data and I'm doing all these things. And I thought I would never be able to do this if I was drinking. Like never, ever, ever. Even if it's a slight hangover, or I would work with wine. So I'd be drinking wine and doing my notes and working. And now it's like, it's just not like that. I'm able to, if I want to stay up late to work or wake up early, my mind is clear and fresh. There is no cloud of hangover. I just wouldn't be able to have done what I've done in America without a clean and sober mind. So it really is great for that level of clarity it brings.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I used to believe, I was under the fallacy or the belief that I was a better businessman, a better lover, funnier, more attractive, sexier when I drank. And the reality was that I was just a filthy drunk. You know, I used to often say that I had the confidence of John Wayne, the looks of George Clooney, the dance moves of 𝗔𝗩𝗘𝗪𝗓, and the swagger of Clint Eastwood. Well, I had the swagger, but I had the swagger of an alcoholic, falling and tumbling because I was so inebriated. To your story, you actually gave yourself the gift to sobriety on Christmas.
Yes.
So tell us about that process, because you started sobriety as an experiment. You wanted to see if you could go on not drinking for a month, and you only lasted 3 weeks. But then on Christmas, on the 23rd of December, you decided to give yourself the gift of sobriety. Tell us that story.
So on the 23rd was like my emotional rock bottom. So that was the last day that I drank. And I was new in America. I was staying in someone's guest bedroom. I was alone for Christmas. And I had this feeling, which was that I didn't want to go back to the life I knew before, which was my country and even my family. I didn't want to be at Christmas with them. So it's like I knew I had people, but they didn't feel like my people. I felt very adrift and disconnected and alone. And I felt angry and afraid, although at the time I didn't even know that was called fear. I didn't think I had any fears. I just thought I was mad and angry. But I realized from my fourth step that I was just wrapped up in a lot of fear. And I planned for myself that what I would do on Christmas Eve is listen to show tunes, eat pizza. And I used to like to get drunk and like slide around in my socks, like slide on the floor and like make up moves, like really like, which I also thought was cool, but like not cool at all, like very, very ridiculous. So 23rd, I was like, had my pizza, poured a glass of wine. The girl that I was living with, we had made it a very important stop when we lived together to find the nearest bottle store and found discount wine. And we would go and fill up our backpacks and bring it back. And we didn't think that this was alcoholic at all. We were like, oh, we're just being thrifty and saving money. But no one prioritized wine the way I did. It was a vital necessity. So had that glass of wine, put on a show, and I thought, I can't do this. Like, this is not my life. Like, this is not fun. This is depressing. I don't want another night where I just sit here like numbing out with this anxiety inside me that the wine isn't making go away. Like, I'm lonely, I'm scared, I don't know what's going on. Like, this is not my life. Like, what is my life going to be? Like, it can't be this anymore. Like, it just wasn't working. And it was a feeling of deep loneliness and disappointment and actual devastation when I thought, maybe it's time to just not drink. It was that same voice that had said, maybe stay. This time was like, don't drink. And I'm such a person who's very proactive. I like to do things. So I was like, watch a movie, pour the wine, put in a pizza, like, get a blanket, like do. And I was like, don't do this one thing. And I thought, let me try this. Like, I tried everything else. So yeah, it was that. And on the 24th, I woke up and I thought, this is it. And it felt like the one thing I could give myself when there was nothing else I could give myself. I had no money. I had no anything. I thought, give yourself this gift and try sobriety. And then that experiment turned it into 916 days later. Here we are.
Incredible. Well, let's talk about those 916 days, because you made a decision one day. You had to come to with yourself and you stopped drinking. But what was your process? I mean, I stopped drinking from one day to another after an ultimatum from my ex-wife that you either do this or boom. And I walked right into an AA meeting after seeing my therapist, and my therapist told me I had the worst acute chronic cases of alcoholism he's ever seen, and that the only thing that he thought would work for me was to go to AA. So I went straight from his office to an AA meeting, and there started my journey into recovery. So tell me, what was your process? You made a decision. What happens next?
Yeah, I've always known about alcoholism. My father was an alcoholic, and I didn't know what that meant until I joined AA. I really didn't actually get it. I've always known that I was going to not drink one day. So when I was a teenager, I was in Teenagers Against Drug Abuse. When I visualized my future, I always thought, I'll marry a man who doesn't drink. I won't drink. I just didn't know when it was going to happen for me. And I couldn't seem to get to the point where it was going to happen. Like, I couldn't catch up to that future version of myself that I knew was calling me. And I'd been in bed for a few days, very miserable. And I had a new friend that I'd met who was South African. And she said, come and join for Christmas lunch or something. I didn't want to. And I said to her, I'm just too sad and miserable. I'm taking a break from drinking. And she suggested, come to AA. So she was my Eskimo. And I literally said to her, why would I do that? Like you've got, she had a problem. Like, I just was taking a break, And I went to AA and I thought it was so amazing. And I felt that same energy of my dad, which I loved. And I know those people, that vibe. And I realized, the more I did it, how much I didn't know. That I would go, oh, I like these kind of people. Oh, this is where I feel comfortable. Oh, I used to describe people as being normal people that I didn't like, and then my friends who I did like. What I was describing was normies and addicts. And I was even using similar languaging. I needed to be in a room of addicts. Only I felt comfortable with addicts, the same sense of humor they got me. But I still wasn't piecing together, oh, this is where you belong because you're the same. I still was I'm so glad that they let me in here. Obviously I'm different, but it's nice to hang out with these people, just really, it's taken me such a long time to integrate. And I still have these moments where I'm like, oh, but I'm different. And then every addict I'll speak to will be like, no, you're definitely meant to be here. It's fine. So what I love about AA for me was it's a program of, follow your feet, not always listen to your head. So even when I don't have to understand why it works, or why does writing out this thing do anything, or why does doing a fear inventory mean anything, why must I dredge up my past, I don't need to understand it. And I think that's been the biggest awakening for me in life, is going, just because I don't understand it doesn't mean it's not true. It doesn't mean I can't expand into it. It doesn't mean it's not possible for me. I don't have to get it for it to work. And I always thought I had to get things and figure it out and try and control it in my own mind. And my only way out of my thinking was to drink, to get literally out of my mind. Otherwise, I was trapped in this conundrum of working out things and like just of insanity actually. So sobriety opened the door to go, you don't know what you don't know. You can show up anyway. You can listen, you can learn, and you can just exhale and take some in and see how you feel and check in with yourself. Oh, you feel better. Okay, do it again tomorrow. Easy does it. Like just this, it was so gentle for me. It was the opposite of how I'd been living my life.
Yeah, I truly believe that some of those meetings can be, it's almost like going to a meditation session, okay? Because you let go of who you are, you just become present, and you allow life to lead you. And if you take it that way, you stop listening to your voices in your head, and you start following your feet, as you just said a minute ago. You know, Lauren, you had an interesting upbringing, and you have been successful at a very young age. You know, you were a professional actress at the age of 9. You were a late bloomer into drinking. You actually didn't have your first drink until you were 18 years old, and your first blackout till you were 24. Where did alcohol get out of control? Because by all means, you had many successes in your life. Yes, there was a lot of dysfunction, and I do believe that social conditioning for alcoholics or addicts overall, has a tendency of creating triple and multiple layers of dysfunction in us that allow us to act out of character. But where did you lose control of Lauren, that poised, attractive woman that wanted properness and etiquette and all things to be perfect? Where did she get? Where did the addict pop up? Where did the alcoholic show up? How?
So I think it was always there. And I remember that when I was first reading the big book, and I read a section saying, you know, you want to direct the show and be in control of everything. And I thought, oh, well, this is ridiculous, because if this is what an alcoholic is, I was one since I was 5. And then I realized, oh yeah, that's the exact point. So I know how to keep things under control. I'm very driven. I know how to get what I want. And I'm extremely focused, to the point where like when I was focused on I've always been focused on my career. So when I'm acting, I'm acting. When it's business, and it gives me a lot. And I had a lot of goals that I wanted to achieve for myself by 25. So I wanted a house, I wanted a husband, I wanted a big business, and I wanted $1 million. It was rand. So I mean, that's nothing in dollars, but it was big for me then. And by 25, I had all the things I wanted. I even knew I wanted my husband to be Jewish. He was Jewish. It was the guy that I liked when I was 13. I had all the things. And I started to still feel the sense of emptiness and dissatisfaction, that it looked like a picture of what I wanted, but I felt empty. It wasn't giving me the feeling of family and home and security that I'd been desperately craving, but never known how to access. And after I got divorced from my husband, who I deeply loved, and left anyway, because I realized he couldn't give me the thing that I was looking for, I went back to my hometown at 27 that I'd left at 17. And I remember sitting there with my mother and my stepfather and literally saying, if you can't beat them, join them. I said, I've tried to get out of this town my whole life. I'd been opposed to everything it stood for. I didn't like the people. I didn't like anything. And now I was back. And I felt like I was like a dog with my tail between my legs. Like I had this success and this marriage and this husband and this lifestyle. And I was back in my town, and I thought, just drink, be like your family. I would get drunk with my mother. I would go out. I'd hang out with the girls I couldn't stand at school. Suddenly I was their friend. I'm not their friend anymore. They were never actually my friend, but they were my drinking buddies. And I became cool. I'd always been focused, and that's not cool. I hadn't been that as social as I could have been. And I just got more and more in the vibe, in that party scene. And you think, well, I did at the time, that I've got friends, I'm popular, I'm having fun. I wasn't looking at the fact that I couldn't stand the people. It was inane and repetitive. I was making myself sick with drinking. I didn't like what I was doing. So I would drink more to overcompensate. Then I moved to Cape Town because it was much, much more of a party place. And the woman there seemed very open-minded and liberated, and, sleep with whoever you want to sleep with and party all day. And it's a vibe. And it was all this freedom of expression. And it's important to be free. I mean, I'm all about freedom, but I just got into this. I found my people, and they were the alcoholics and addicts. And I always felt that I wasn't as bad as them because I hung out with the biggest, most heaviest drinkers and drug addicts. So I still was able to feel like I'm good compared to them, but I couldn't stand any other people. So I think it just progressed and progressed. And eventually the things that you try and run away from in your life catch up to you. So I think that I've had a gaping wound in my heart from the loss of my father and the total denial of his existence from my family, that he was just like this black smudge on the pages of my history that must be erased. Like they didn't mention him, he was bad. Once when it was his death anniversary, I posted about it on Facebook saying, I think about you every day. And one of my aunts phoned me up immediately and said, why would you post that? It's so embarrassing. Your father tried to make a pass at me. Like, do you know what kind of man he was? And it was like, I was so shamed for loving this terrible man because he was a drunk. And I feel that the more I drank, the closer I got to him. I always wanted to know what it was, like why he loved it so much, what it felt like. And I remember waking up one morning and thinking, would it be bad if I put vodka in my orange juice, or is it just a mimosa? Like, am I fabulous or am I an alcoholic? I don't know. But I thought this is what he felt like. And I would feel very close to him. So I would feel like every time I went out that my dad would be proud of me. Like he'd like me partying, he'd like me in sexy outfits. Like, and I started building this relationship with what I was calling my dad in my head, but it was alcoholism. It was my only way to connect. It's like I felt so disconnected that I wanted something that I thought I was getting with drinking. But the anxiety and the panic and the dreadful experiences that you have as a woman that come with that are just awful. So it stopped working. It was my solution. I thought, this is what I need to do, fit in with people, drink it up. And I remember thinking, like, I can stand this life when I can barely stand. Like, I have to be inebriated to get through.
The reality, Lauren, that I have learned after 20 years of sobriety, that the more we run away from ourselves, the more we are running into ourselves, because we are seeking to understand why we behave the way that we behave. And in that, and we try to numb it. You said something that really resonated with me. And I wrote a book, which is to be released in the next few months. It was scheduled to be released at the early part of the year, but unfortunately, because of our current state of affairs, that has been postponed. But it's called From Lies to Riches, and it's 13 Steps to a Healthy Life. And it's based on the principles of the 12-step program. And I added the 13th step kind of as a little jab to, 13 step in sobriety is about, 13 stepping, trying to hit on a woman or a man, whichever the case is in sobriety. But I used it as a different form of step. But the point being is that with each one of the steps, I wanted to understand where my addiction came in. Okay, where did Peter develop certain behaviors? When did they come in? Step one, okay, we are powerless over alcohol in AA, and our lives have become unmanageable. So the reality is that I was able to pinpoint that in my life, when I was 5, 6 years old, I was able to witness certain behaviors in my household that I was completely powerless over. Sexual abuse, incest, all kinds of stuff, physical, mental, all kinds of stuff that a kid that age should not see. And as a result of that, my life became unmanageable. Okay? So I learned very early on to develop escapisms. Okay? Ways to numb that pain, ways to numb that shame, ways to numb mechanisms to protect myself, so I thought. And this carry on into life and manifested into alcoholism, womanizing, lying, cheating, deceiving, controlling, manipulating, power, sex, whatever you call it, but it was a form of escaping from who I thought I was, okay? And not who I had been conditioned to believe I was. So I had to go through this process of tearing all those beliefs apart in order to be able to find myself. So the more I ran from myself, the more I kept running into me. Okay.
Totally.
And the reality is that was actually my saving grace, and I realized at some point that unattended drama, something that we don't address, it doesn't only spill over to our present life, it becomes a dysfunctional cycle of generational trauma. If I didn't address it, now I could give it to my son. And what I decided at some point that's not the way that I wanted to live. I didn't want my son to have or exhibit the same behaviors that I did, because I was completely dysfunctional. I saw dysfunctional, I carried dysfunctional, I became dysfunctional, okay? To a point of believing that that's who I was. But at some point, like you, I had an awakening, call it a psychic change, call it whatever it is, okay? But I had an awakening that allowed me to realize that I was better than that I deserve better, you know?
Yeah, I think it's like, I see everything as being mirrored reflections of us, like what we're attracted to and what we choose. And it became very obvious to me that the only people that I was choosing were alcoholics to date. Like I was only interested in addicts and alcoholics, and I could see it in them, but I couldn't see that mirrored back in me. And one of the things that happened in sobriety was I always knew that my dad was the bad one and my poor, sweet, innocent mom was the good one. And it's that kind of black and white thinking that is so indicative of my own alcoholism. And what I've realized through this process is that we attract, like our partners mirror us, they're reflected back.
They're just They're just a
yeah,
set.
exactly. So it's never just, oh, my poor mom is good, my terrible dad is bad. I've had to look at my parenting and go, this is a woman who, you know, married a man who's also an alcoholic. My stepfather is an alcoholic. Not that he calls himself that or my family does, but he is a classic alcoholic. She's choosing to be with those kind of men. There's something in her which is carried down from her parents, which I have in me too. And I realized also that if someone is always, you know, there's different types of narcissism. If someone is always the victim, if always their friends are against them, their partner is against them, everyone's against them, it's so terrible. They're so weak. They're so dysfunctional. It's like, oh, and you're feeling sorry for someone. That is a form of narcissistic behavior. And it's toxic. Yeah, it's absolutely toxic. So it's like I grew up with these things about it could either be bad or I could be weak. But where was the individual who just was autonomous and made a choice and got on with their life? It was like either this punished victim of my mother who was a martyr to my dreadful stepfather, but my dad was even worse. And I was either the nightmare child or the victim. So I was either being punished by my stepfather or I was the baddie. So there was no role between victim or baddie. And that's just like a dreadful place to be. Like, it's just not cool. And I totally relate to what you're saying about the escape. It's like, I've always had escape through my creativity, through my imagination, and through my work. It gets to take me other places. But when my heart was so broken after the divorce, I had no more. I went to alcohol because I felt like that was a temporary kind of fix. But I think all of it is just to try and drown out looking at the reality of your life, of going, there are things in my childhood that are absolutely not okay. And I grew up in environments that were not okay, that were abusive, that were completely emotionally destructive, and that were not okay for not okay for a child. There were just too many things. So, but now that I can recognize that, I have the ability to go, it is painful to sometimes leave behind your family or to sever ties, but it is your liberation, because I can keep trying to change things and make them different, or I can walk away and start fresh. And we do have the opportunity in life to begin again and rebirth ourselves and reparent ourselves.
Absolutely. We have the ability to change ourselves. We don't have to worry about changing anybody else.
Exactly.
What we have to worry about is about changing the course of future generations. That's where our impact, our true impact comes in. How do we behave? What kind of legacy do we create that makes an impact in the world that breaks those dysfunctional cycles of behaviors to assure that we don't carry them over? Because we do become a mirror of our parents. We do become a mirror of our social conditioning. We do become a mirror of our culture conditioning. But we also have the ability and the autonomy to break that and change that. Okay, and to find ourselves. So let me ask you a question, because you're. I'm going to say this again. I have had a tremendous admiration for you since I first. You're dynamic. You have a lot of energy. You're very positive. You're funny. You're quirky. You're well dressed. You're a sexy woman. There's a lot of attributes. Okay, when did you find that person to know that that person has had some deficiencies, some shortcomings, some character defects? We all do. Even normies, okay? But when did you find that individual and how is it that you managed to stay centered on who you are, not who you were or who you were conditioned to be?
So I've always felt that I've always had a strong sense of self and a need to express myself. So it made life challenging because I would be bullied. I didn't fit in. I stood out always. And it led to a lot of success and a lot of emotional pain. So it's like, I was really good at what I did. But that doesn't mean that you're happy. It just means you're good at what you do. So it's like, I was good at what I did and I refused to buy into the status quo. I'd always disrupt the system. I was opinionated. I would say what I saw. I could see things clearly when other people would like be pretending and acting. I felt like I could see through it. But it felt like I was so disruptive that like, maybe if I just toned myself down or whitewashed myself, I would fit in better with the world. But that just led to even more pain and devastation. So those were like the drinking years. And then when I got sober, it was like, I'm allowed to expand into my totality and be all of me. And that means singing, dancing, being weird, being confident, being really super smart, writing, having feelings. Like, it means all of that stuff. I'm allowed to express it. I don't need to pretend that I'm not all of me. So sobriety just allowed me to expand and expand. It feels like a blooming, like a blossoming, to like push myself to my edges and test myself, because it's like, I'm not doing crazy stuff anymore when I'm drunk. So I can get my kicks now, my thrills about going like, am I allowed to say this? Like, could I do this? Like, and then I'm like, well, you're sober. So when you're drunk, there's an excuse. Oh, well, I was drunk. I don't have an excuse. I'm doing all of the stuff that I'm doing stone cold sober, but I still like, I like intensity. I like to feel like I'm pushing things. So I get to play within the realm of my own personality instead of diluting my personality and making drama around myself to try and feel like activated. So I had this very specific moment when I realized that this drinking thing was not working for me. And I was speaking at an event in South Africa called Future Females. I'd been wasted the day before, literally had passed out, hadn't gone to my friend's gallery opening. It was a disaster. I was in bed all day and then showed up to this event, like in my stilettos, like diamantes in my hair, done. I was giving a presentation on a book that I'd written. And I was speaking about being confident and reveling in your own perfection, like fuck perfect, revel in real. And it was all, it was dynamic and great, but I was massively hungover. And I was facing these 250 women doing my spiel. And I thought, I'm going to keep getting away with this. I'm so trained at performance that I can show up and turn it on when I need to. And they have no idea that I've spent the entire day like dry retching in bed. And that after this, I'm going to go out and get fucked up again because I deserve it, because I did a good show of being a proper person. And I was like, I don't want to be this girl. Like there's so much more for me than this. But like, I was in this, like, it was this horrible moment of like standing there and they were all clapping. And I thought like, I'm faking this. Like, this is me, but it's a tenth of what I could be, because behind this is all like this other stuff that I wouldn't want people to know about. Like, I wouldn't want people to see me falling down drunk at a club or red stained teeth from drinking too much. Like, I kept that like kind of separate, but it was starting to bleed in. And it's like, I do want to be dynamic. I do want to stand out. I want to make a difference. I want to make an impact, but I can't do that when I'm getting drunk at night. Like, it just doesn't go together, and it makes me feel so bad about myself. It's that shame spiral that addicts face. I don't know if normies feel that bad if they get wasted. I would feel terrible because I knew I was dimming my light, and it's not a cool thing. I didn't like it. And then you dim it and you feel shame and you want to dim it even more. You don't even want to know how big you can be or what you can do in life. But with sobriety, it's like, I feel like I have a responsibility to show up and be the full version of myself. And that requires being fully present, fully committed and dedicated. And there's no off button. There's no, oh, I'm just going to numb out now. Like, okay, I did today. Fuck it. I'll just get out of my head. No, like, I need to find other ways to self-soothe and self-regulate. And I need to be fully present to be alive in this life. So that's what sobriety is for me. Yeah, it's like maximizing aliveness.
I love it. I love your energy. So tell me, what are your 5 daily practices? And I don't mean this in a cliche way, okay? I truly believe that for me, my personality, the person that I am, I need to carry a toolbox. I need to do certain things on a daily basis that allow me to perform at my best, to not get into my mind and start hearing the voices that said, Peter, you're not good enough. Peter, go get fucked up. Peter, you're not worthy. Peter, you're an imposter. Peter, you're this. Peter, you're that, okay? The way that I do that is through a series of rituals that I consistently do on a daily basis, even when I don't feel like them, okay? And what they have become, because they are rituals, they end up making me feel better about myself afterwards. And therefore, it no longer takes energy or effort, okay? And they're very simple. Mine is prayer, meditation, working out on a daily basis, whether it's a quick run or lifting weights or whatever, going to the gym. Can't do that right now, but doing something physical, healthy diet, okay, reading, constant journaling. I love to journal because I find that I am able to quiet the noise in my head. And many of times I find the answers to the questions that are circling into my mind through journaling. And a gratitude list. Every night before I go to bed, I write down whatever are the things that I'm grateful for that day, whatever happens to me. And I have found an incredible amount of peace, an incredible amount of serenity, an incredible amount of gratitude, an incredible amount of balance in my life by just doing those simple things. My life has just turned better. You know, I feel that I have surrendered to being present and allow life to carry me to wherever I need to be without, you know, before I felt like I needed to be here and I needed to do that. I felt this need to go up and to do this, and everything that I fucked it up. I was driving and passed a red light and I got a ticket. I got the ticket and then I got a flat tire. I got a flat tire, got my shoe dirty. I spilled the coffee on my coat. I got to the office late and I got everybody pissed off. Everything was a fuck up. Okay. Today, I feel like I'm in a constant state of flow. And that doesn't mean that I'm mellow. That doesn't mean that I'm slow. It just means that I am content and I am present. So what are your go-to tools that you do on a daily basis that give you that kind of flow or constant state of peace in your life?
So the first is creativity. That's the number one thing in my life that I feel is the solution to like all my problems. Like if God is our creator, we are creatives, and creativity and doing things creatively is what really keeps me going. So I dedicate my life towards creative practice and creative pursuit. So I do everything creatively. It's all like pleasure-based. Like even where I'm sitting now, I've got hanging plants behind me and fairy lights. You can't see there in the corner. And my house is dedicated towards like, it's lovely and creative. It's set up to where I work is a beautiful space that I look out. I've got actually multiple workspaces. So I'm very creative. So as I wake up in the morning, I'll usually do something creative, and I use social media as my platform to post my thoughts, my feelings, to create images, to share. The next is community. My community is very, very important to me. And this would be like, I have multiple online communities that I run and am close to, but also like actual community of conversation, like with my friends. So I speak to my sister at least twice a day. And I have other core group of friends that I speak to probably like within a week. I speak to all my friends, but 2 of them I speak to every day. So at least like 3 deep connected conversations where like we just sharing how we feel. And like what's become very important to me during quarantine time is to really make sure that the people I'm associated with, we care about each other's hearts and how we feel, not just what we're doing. It's not just agenda-based, it's very deeply connected. So my online communities, the conversation, connection, and then, oh my gosh, I'm going to make them all C's. And then coffee. Coffee is another one. I love making magic out of the mundane. So I love heightening a very ordinary experience. So something can be like basic, like, oh, get a cup of coffee, or it can be like a delightful occasion. So I'll dress up to go, now that I can still go to my coffee shop that I love, Blue Bottle, I'll dress up in something fabulous and go down the road and get my coffee. Or if I make it at home, I have a beautiful mug that I use, or I try and make a process for things that it feels very delightful and it's lifted out of the ordinary. And I'd say the final one that I have is just appreciation. I try to become very aware of things, like I call it like micro meditations. So look outside and really say, wow, it's so green. The light's shining on those plants, and just taking a moment of like absorbing the beauty. And then outside, I'll be like, it's so blue, the sky, like very basic, but I tell myself what I'm seeing and I appreciate it. And what I've heard from friends who've done acid, I've never done acid, but the way people are in acid, where the colors are so bright and trees speak to them, or like it's all, I feel like I'm living on a permanent acid trip, like that you can access if you just engage and appreciate and give attention to things that are around you. It's like it comes alive. So I really draw in a lot of inspiration from what's around me. And like I'm having conversations with my community and with my connections, I have conversations with everything that I'm paying attention to. Like I try and draw out the messages and the gifts and the love from everything that I'm seeing. Plants, trees, whatever's around me. So that's how I do it.
Who is your biggest, who is the person that has the biggest influence in your life today?
My sister.
Okay. She's also your best friend, isn't she? You talk
Yeah.
about her a bit.
I talk about her a lot. Yeah. She's very inspiring to me.
And she's also sober, right?
Yeah, she got sober first, and she was sending me things from Sobriety and stuff about sobriety, and I thought it was cool, but like I wasn't really there yet. My sister's very researched, so I'm in the Kolbe test of different personality types. I'm a quick start, so I'm very like I just dive in and do, and I put it out there. My sister's very researched, and she's behind the scenes, and she integrates a lot of information, but she's always feeding it to me, so I'm learning a lot from her all the time. And yeah, I just think she's great. She also has a very good way of. I love getting feedback from people, but I have to really respect the person to take it in. So and my sister will tell me things like, give me different perspectives, or try this or do that. And she helps guide me with what I'm doing. She gives me a lot of direction and a lot of clarity. It's also great. We're both coaches. So she's a clarity coach. I'm a creativity coach. So I coach her, she coaches me. We work in tandem. We do a lot of co-working. And it's really incredible having like a sister who was there during my whole upbringing. Like she's been with me for this journey. She also came from that family, she knows what they're like. So it's very comforting to have that sister connection. And then my closest friends also feel like it's that family connection where we just have similar values in life.
What would be the advice that you would give a woman in early recovery, somebody that's still struggling to find herself? What would be the advice that you would give her?
I would say to shut out the outside voices of what everyone's telling you should do, must do, have to do, and start to ask yourself where these ideas first came from. Because as Martha Beck, my coach, has said, we often have a voice of everyone says, but our everyone is usually broken down into 2 or 3 people who become our everyone. So to start looking at where did you develop these beliefs that this is how it is in life and this is how you had to be to survive and get through. Because when you start to look, it's like we change reality just by observing it. Like it actually starts to shift and change. And we're able to dissolve these ideas and go, what if there was an alternative? What if there was another possibility? What if what I thought was true about how I had to be and how the world is, if it was softer, more benevolent, lovelier, like invite the possibility that it can be a different way. And in that softening space, you invite more opportunity for transformation. Because I was wrapped up in a lot of fear in early sobriety, and I didn't even know that I had it. I said, I'm scared of nothing. I'll do anything. But like my whole energy was like I was terrified. Like I was like a caged animal, not even knowing I was scared or caged. And the more I just softened and slowed down.
You're a kid. You were a 5-year-old kid on a woman's body.
100%. And when I was able to slow, I could see, oh, you're in a cage. Oh, and there's an outside world. Oh, and you have the key. Like you can unlock this, but you got to stop thrashing against that cage to actually see where you're at and then make that transition. And I would also say, just be very gentle on yourself. Like you don't need to figure it all out. You don't have to know everything today. It's one day at a time. Do the best you can. It doesn't have to be high energy or super happy. I'm sad a lot of the time. In fact, I think that my pleasure and my passion and my creativity comes from the fact that I have a lot of emotion. I'm often sad, disappointed, devastated, and I use that as my raw lead to alchemize into freedom and liberation and pleasure and joy. But I'm constantly drawing from places that are painful. It's every day. It's not like, yeah, woohoo, life's amazing. Today's a good day. I'm like, okay, Lauren, like show up and like give it your all. Just give it your all. I don't expect it to feel juicy and delightful all the time. I mean, I kind of do, but like I know that I can keep going even when I don't know what's coming next. And I think at this time in life, it's like none of us know. But the fact is, none of us have ever known. We just think we know. So it's when we dissolve the idea that we know, we can just be present to what is and make the most of exactly what's in front of us at the moment.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think that the moment that we become present to the possibility, then all biases are out of the way. We become present. And the moment you're present, there's no biases. You don't have time to think about what if. Just fucking get present, get here, show up. And when you show up, your mind quiets down and you can see what's right in front of you.
Totally.
Lauren, you have talked about this, a syndrome that is very commonly known as a daddy issues. Women that want to date something that reminds them about their dad. And you talked often in your interviews about how you used to date men that had long hair, long curly black hair. Have you addressed those issues, and how did you address them?
Yeah, I mean, I do. Yeah, and I love long curly black hair. It's such a vibe. Yeah, it's something that I think is very reflective of. It's like, our deepest pain and our deepest wounding is often our greatest gift at the same time. Sure. So I've had to find compassion for the fact that, like, and it's one of the reasons I'm a really good foster mom to dogs. And I love, like, little abandoned puppies, and I love to take them in. Like, I do have a soft spot for humans and creatures that have been abandoned, discarded, are unwanted, and are deemed as, like, bad. I see their sadness. So my biggest love in sobriety, and since America, has been, like, a dysfunctional man who is still an alcoholic and is so the obvious version that I've still, like, got a daddy issue is, like, this guy. Like, it's just so clear. I mean, I'm not with him. I haven't seen him in 6 months, 6 months sober from seeing this person. I'm very proud of myself. But it's like, what I'm doing with that is going, the appeal for this kind of person represents the type of people that I want to show up for in life. So I can shame myself and going, oh, why would you want to be with a person who is completely emotionally dysfunctional, has, this guy grew up in a sex cult, so, like, really had a very difficult upbringing, like a lot of, like, trauma, is a massive alcoholic, treats you badly, doesn't want you, like, what is your, and it's like, well, because I love people like that. I love people who've overcome adversity. I love people on the outskirts of society who don't fit into what's normal, who haven't had a white picket fence life or were born with a silver spoon in their life. I love people who've overcome challenges, who are interesting, who've got unique perspectives and backgrounds and stories. Like, those are my people. Like, I like the freaks and the weirdos and the addicts and the people with potential for brilliance and greatness. And while it is difficult trying to date a person like that, okay, it is brilliant to coach them or to create communities or to be invested, because not everyone is drawn to the kind of people I'm drawn to. And I am, like, I like the dark side. Like, I like it. It's like, I'm comfortable there. And it's actually, I think that once we just start dissolving the shame and the stigma around mental illness and addiction and these things, there is so much potential for healing and community and connection and beauty. And yeah, so I look at it like that. And that's how I've been working through this, is going, just don't date the people that you want to save. Love and pity are not the same. Or, like, don't, like, someone needs to treat you well, like, ultimately, and you need to treat yourself well. But also that it's beautiful that I have a deeply connected space to people that maybe others would overlook or would shun because, but, like, can you believe, like, where they come from? I like where they come from.
The reality is that if you look at the childhood of the average addict, average alcoholic, we come from dark places. Because at a very young age, we were drawn and pushed into a dark, deep hole. We were emotionally abandoned by our parents. We were emotionally abandoned and introduced into dysfunction. And that allowed us as individuals to start seeking and looking at things that were not normal, because that shame that we carry from very young, very, very, very young kids, we couldn't share that with the common folk. We couldn't share that with our neighbors, with our playmates, with our friends. So we went into deep, dark places and started creating, imaginary friends, promiscuity, and all the things that we develop. But along with that comes a lot of creativity, a lot of a lot of artistic, a lot of talent. If you look at the average individual in addiction, you go to a 12-step meeting, there is some incredible geniuses there. I mean,
totally.
The talent and geniuses, and even people that are in sobriety today, You look at Joe and I mean, I know hundreds of people that are sober today that are incredibly talented, successful individuals. And to that point, those are the stories that I want to bring more attention to, because the reality is that we are made believe that the alcoholic, the addict, is the guy under the bridge. Well, there is many of them like that, unfortunately, that they don't find their path into sobriety. They don't find their way into sobriety. But that does not minimize the fact that they could still be talented and artistic and geniuses. They just happen to not been able to have the fortune or the foresight to cross over into the other side. So, yeah,
I think it's that thing also of like that a sober addict has ability to connect on levels that other people don't.
Emotionally.
Emotionally, see right into someone's heart, meet someone with acceptance and reverence and respect. Yes. That's due to someone human to human. And it's like, do you mean Joe Polish who we were talking about?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, Joe I'm obsessed with. And Joe is exactly that. Like, he's such an incredible connector. Mm-hmm. And I'll watch him, him on a panel with other people, and the other people are putting on a facade or speaking in a strange voice or addressing the crowd. And Joe's speaking the same as he speaks to me on the phone. He speaks like himself. Yeah. It's real. And I think that the currency of the future is connection. Can we connect? How are we able to do that to ourselves and to others? And yeah, I think addicts I think they're the best at that from what I've experienced.
You just said something that is key. The currency of the future is who you know, not what you know. Okay. And
I mean, I don't know about that. Like, I do think it's, I was at a great talk the other day where they said it is what you know, because what you know gets you to the who you know very fast. Yeah, so it's like, right. I didn't know anyone in America, but like, it's what I knew that got me into the right places, because I express what I know. Absolutely.
Because before it used to be, and maybe I phrased it incorrectly, but before it used to be is, how do I learn how to do this? Well, you don't have to fucking learn how to do that. You just find out someone that knows how to do that. Okay. And that person can connect to someone that knows how to do the other thing. Where before, and it's very common among entrepreneurs or solopreneurs, we want to do everything. We want to be the bookkeeper. We want to be the CEO. We want to be the CFO. We want to be the janitor. No, you can't grow and expand by being all things.
Yeah, definitely study. I mean, definitely get someone to teach you, buy the courses, get a coach, do the stuff, invest in yourself to get the return.
Absolutely. So let's talk about your school that you recently started and the courses you're about to release. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I ran a content marketing agency in South Africa for a few years after I sold my performing arts school. I developed this business that pivoted a few times, and I realized over the years that I was really good at telling stories, creating experiences, and creating brands that had emotion. So personality-based brands, which has really stood me in good stead as I've moved from different cities and different countries around the world. And in 2017, I launched the first iteration of the academy, where I trained people how to set up like a business in a box. So you need a brand, you need a community, you need a compelling offer, very important. That's been in development, and I've done a lot of work one-on-one with people where I've helped them come up with a brand strategy, where I've helped them like shape their business. I do currently business optimization with people where I help them to prioritize effectively, virtualize intelligently, and really maximize their marketing opportunities. And I love that individual work, but I realized there was a deficit for people I couldn't serve who can't afford me one-on-one, but they could afford a group program. So Simply Irresistible is my summer school launching in July. It's a 3-month program. I train twice a month. So it's 2 classes with me one-on-one, where you get coaching and get consultation, and we go through all the challenges that come up for you. And then you get 24/7 access to my school, which is a build out of all the information that I've condensed over the last decade of success in business. So it's in 3 different modules of activate your creative genius, what makes you unique, compelling, and different. And then captivate your community. How do you draw people towards you, magnetize them, keep them coming back for more, form connections? And finally, 3rd, how do you then create and sell multiple irresistible offers? How do you serve this audience with offers that they are drawn to and that they can't resist? So I take people through this process, and at the end of their 90 days, they're able to actually set themselves up with their community and put their offer out there. And this is the absolute cornerstone, foundational place to start if you want to have your own business or test your passion project. So that's what I run. And then I have a monthly program once they've completed that, called Content Creators Club, where they get to keep building and keep in practice. We have a 1-month session for training with me, and throughout the month, they get access to support with training, and they go through the 12 steps to content creation. I developed the 12 steps before I knew about the 12 steps. So like, I think subconsciously I always love 12 steps, but it's like, what are the things you need to do to like keep consistent, keep showing up, keep regular, keep building this practice, because building your own business is a lifelong investment. And there's certain fundamentals you need to set up officially once, like with your strategy, but then you need to keep building, and you keep building with content in your community. So yeah, that's my program.
Incredible. Where can people find you?
They can find me at The Creativity Coach on Instagram, or they can find me on my website, 𝗟𝗏𝗕𝗏𝗕𝗏.com.
Incredible. Lauren, thank you so much for being with us. You heard her here on Coming Clean Podcast. Lauren Wallet, an incredible woman, an incredible human being, an incredible entrepreneur. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today on another episode of the Coming Clean Podcast. Make sure to join Peter and his next guest on a brand new episode as we continue changing and impacting lives across the world. Share this episode with a friend, follow, subscribe, and leave a review.
Boy, I had to get it fast. Get a dash in my position, you would